Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Yellow Card Podcast reporting for duty immediately on a Saturday morning, October 23rd. It's about, well, not Saturday morning anymore. We're still recuperating from a live stream that we did earlier today with the 10 a.m. slot of the Premier League. It's your host, Diego Galvez, accompanied by Chris Jones, Andrew Fasciano, and a very special guest that you guys will get to know very soon. Episode 57 starting right now, presented to you by Couch Guy Sports and sponsored by our friends over at Shocked Energy. If you're watching this on YouTube, you may be seeing Chris Jones currently holding up a box of the watermelon flavor, one of their flavors. In addition to that, the next flavor is green apple, which definitely suggests trying out. If you go to www.shockedenergy.com, make sure you use the code CGSN, as in Couch Guy Sports Network, and get 10% off of your order today. Doesn't matter where you live, doesn't matter where you're ordering from, they ship worldwide, and we will take care of you in an effort to help you gain your focus and energy back in a healthy manner. Episode 57, we got a lot to talk about today. Got some serious headlines happening across football as we speak. We'll call it football, we'll call it soccer. It's just the beautiful game overall, as we all know it in the industry. But we want to obviously talk about the Champions League, how the boys did last week, and their predictions, and some of the matches that stood out for us. We'll dabble into a little local stuff such as New England Revolution. The one big topic throwing a dark cloud over my head right now. It's everything going on with Manchester United. I want to hear it from everybody here. But first and foremost, allow me to introduce our guest, Diego Montalvan. You may know him on Twitter. You know him on Instagram. I'm not going to do the full introduction for him because I don't feel like I can do justice. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Diego, take it away, my friend.
How's it going? Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. Like you mentioned, my name is Diego Montalvan. I work for NBC Telemundo right now, currently as a producer, journalist, doing a lot of freelancing as well. And you can see a lot of the interviews I've done and things I'm working on through Telemundo Deportes, as well as on my Instagram and Twitter.
Fantastic. Diego, again, thank you so much for hopping on. I'm going to let you, Diego, be the first one to pick the topic that we should start with.
Let's go Manchester United. I'd like to hear what you guys think and obviously talk about it. There's a lot to dissect there with, the manager and what's going on. So for sure.
Sure. All right. So let's get started. So Manchester United, as of the beginning of the season, struggling to find their form and really get an identity going for themselves in this season. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, as you guys know, brought in three major names to revamp the roster for Manchester United. Brought in Rafael Varane, Jadon Sancho, and of course Cristiano Ronaldo, the GOAT himself, returning back to Old Trafford. Rewriting history. But the excitement was there for fans and whatnot, but the results are just not translating to the same exact excitement that was had during the offseason. Most previously, Manchester United lost in a devastating fashion against Leicester City. Managed to squeak by against Atlanta recently in the Champions League. If it wasn't for Ronaldo being the king of comebacks, I'm not entirely sure that Manchester United would have won that game. In fact, I think I may have had it as a prediction that we were going to end up tied or maybe even lose against Atalanta. I'm shocked that I picked them as a winner.
Ready for this?
Ready for this?
And this is why the Champions League picks are even better. You predicted not only for them to win, you predicted the score correct as well. 3-2 win for United.
Wow.
Spot on.
I was on my Shocked Energy game then. But anyways, going back onto the topic, it's just been very rough for the past beginning of this season. Most importantly, though, fans are starting to grow a little bit more aggravated than they've been in recent years, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer entering his fifth season as head manager for this club. No trophies.
Has it been 5?
It's been 5.
Oh, wow.
no trophies, no nothing. And, the most recent experience that we could have had a trophy be lifted was the Europa League, but falling against Villarreal, that was just a slap in the face where which many thought, I think, Diego, you can attest to this as well. Many thought that United would definitely roll over Villarreal just because of the potential that they had. But little did they know that Villarreal had a lot of fight in them. So, I'm interested to hear everyone's takes. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I'll go first. That's fine with me. I don't
go for it.
First starting off with what you mentioned about Villarreal and Manchester United in the Europa League, I think a lot of people thought that they were gonna, like you said, go over Villarreal, steamroll Villarreal. But I think that if you've seen Villarreal, they're a very good side, very compact side, very organized side that know how to get the best out of their players. And I think that's something that Manchester United, I felt, slept on. No, fans, everyone, I think, slept on. And because I honestly thought Manchester United would win too, but I didn't think it was going to be easy either. And obviously Villarreal did their thing in the final, and that happened, right? As far as Solskjaer, this is my take. This is my opinion. I think that he came in as a caretaker, right? I honestly didn't think that he would last this long. I thought that he was going to be there for a transitional period to get Manchester United through certain times. And at some point, they were going to look for a better manager. No disrespect to him. I just don't think that he can take Manchester United to the next level, even with the players that he's had. Individually, they have great players. Nobody can say anything else bad about them. But the problem is, I just don't think that he has the ideas, the clarity to just take it up to the next level, take it up a notch.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I mean, just going back into Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the role that he came in, as you mentioned, he comes in as a caretaker with previous experience having managed Cardiff City and the Norwegian team whose name I can't think of at the top of my head right now. However, minor in the scope of things, right? It's you're going from a good beginning in Norway to a semi-decent job in Cardiff City, because it's a very hard organization to manage, especially when you have to put in the foundation blocks, to immediately something that already has foundation blocks is ready to be taken to the next level. I think that transition in itself was an extremely harsh transition to have for somebody who's just stepping into the scenery of managing teams of the caliber like Manchester United, or even Real Madrid, Barcelona, and all these guys, because that's where United fits. But then you look at his role as a caretaker, did the job just right, and even the season after that, where he was granted an opportunity to be the manager, he did just fine. But after that, just fine no longer is acceptable, because at this point, exactly. At this point, if you are managing to survive within your first season, the next step for you as a United fan is, all right, put the cards on the table. What is the formula going forward? And let's win a trophy, because we deserve it, right? You went from managers like Mourinho, Sir Alex Ferguson, Louis van Gaal, all these guys that have experience winning trophies and winning formulas, to now somebody who's just giving you a mediocre performance in an effort to survive and stay through the scenery. So for me personally, last year when the Ole out chants were starting to go out and whatnot, I was like, I'm not quite there yet, because he has given us a better performance than we expected. I mean, Manchester United ended second last year behind a Manchester City team that just looked unstoppable by all means. That was just amazing, and I thought with this year's signings, this is the year where you can finally see that drive finally go to the next level. He's got enough experience. He doesn't have to worry about Ed Woodward being in the middle of things anymore. Now he can really manage, right? That just hasn't been the case. And this staff that he has surrounding him is just as mediocre as the results that are shown, because there's no way that Michael Carrick is really challenging him to really stepping up to the next step. There's no way that Michael Phelan is really being like, we're missing this, we're missing that, we're missing here, we're missing there. Who else is challenging him? Now the only vocal person in that locker room is really somebody with the experience of really winning, such as Cristiano Ronaldo. And on top of that, you just have the wrong guy as your captain too, who just happens to be somebody that, in my honest opinion, I think it was a rushed signing and it wasn't thoroughly thought through, because Harry Maguire fits the role, but doesn't quite fit the criteria of being the United captain that he needs to be, that vocal person that really has that identity in United to instantly give that spark, especially at a moment's notice when you're losing or when you are winning and you need to continue driving that winning force. That's for me, my opinion, but I'm interested to hear from the Liverpool fan and Everton fan from an outsider's perspective. Where are you guys at?
No, before your Wi-Fi cuts out, why don't you go?
Okay, thanks. Yeah. I think it's a very interesting discussion from someone on the outside looking in. I think realistically, if you think back to what Manchester United would have hoped Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to have done when they first brought him in, I think he actually did that, to be fair to him. He was someone who knew the club. He was part of the great Alex Ferguson teams as a player. He came in and provided a little bit of stability. I think he's done a good job of bringing in talented players who have raised the value of the squad overall and helped the team become more competitive in the last couple of seasons. I just think that's not the objective anymore, is where the problem comes in. Now that groundwork is done, I think for a club the size of Man United, they really need to be kicking on and challenging for the Premier League and challenging for European cups as well. And I just personally am not convinced from what we've seen that he's the man to do that. So I guess the question for me is, if you're Man United, do you kind of line someone up and make sure you have someone in place before moving on? Or do you just kind of ride with Ole until it gets to a point where you can't take anymore and then see what happens then? But I think it's interesting because in some ways he's actually massively overachieved what he was brought to the club to do. Like Diego said, I also didn't expect him to last this long when he was first hired, but he kept doing just enough to earn the next opportunity. But I think that sort of string of doing just enough has run out a little bit now that the objectives have changed.
Absolutely. Jones?
So real quick, Diego, Molde was the Norwegian team you were thinking of.
That's right, Molde. Thank you. Appreciate it.
But to go back on it, I mean, United has won a Premier League game since September 19th at West Ham. You got a 1-0 loss to Villa, a 1-1 draw to Everton at home. You lose 4-2 to Leicester. At Leicester, which you said about best, Diego, King Power Stadium is a tough place to play no matter what team you are. And then their next two matchups in the Premier League, you have your host in Liverpool, which is a tough matchup, and then you go to Tottenham. So they have a tough stretch here. And then after that is the Manchester Derby at home against City. So that's three tough games right there. And I think we'll see what Ole has lined up for those games. And if this team doesn't get a win in any of those three games, I think Ole out is going to definitely be trending worldwide, especially with the fact that there's an international break and they don't play again until November 20th after that. So for that aspect, the next three games are crucial for Manchester United in their Premier League race as of right now. But to go back on your Harry Maguire take that you said, Harry Maguire was a rush signing. I agree 100%. But if you have him paired up with a guy like Rafael Varane, we saw how good he looks as a number 2 center back on a team rather than a number 1 next to Lindelof. So if you keep him on the pitch with Varane, I think he's a solid. It's just like when he plays with England. You keep him in the middle with John Stones, he's a solid center back. Maybe not worth the price, but I think if his role diminishes a little bit, he can fit the build of that team basically. Then, so you go back on the three major signings, 2 of which I told you before, during the transfer window were going to happen, which was the Jadon Sancho one, which everybody saw coming. But then I told you for months that Rafael Varane was going to be a Manchester United player. And that has happened. Varane has looked very good. We need to see a little bit more Sancho, but we're not going to get it if always the manager. The way that his tactics are, it just doesn't fit guys like Jesse Lingard. It doesn't fit guys like Anthony Martial. It doesn't fit guys like Jadon Sancho. Those are three key pieces, young key pieces that if you want to be successful moving forward, you have to be able to get them within the fold. Don't get me wrong. Greenwood, Bruno, Rashford, they all can work in that system. But in order to keep it as deep as you want it to be, you need to be able to get that involved. And I think another big thing that with this team is the fact that Donny van de Beek is still on this team and has struggled to get any sort of progress going here. And I think that's based off of the coaching staff, like you said. So for me, I told you at the beginning of the group stage for the Champions League, I think Manchester United is going to win the Champions League this year. They need a new manager, though. I think we're gonna see them go in the route. I'll keep saying it until it happens. We're gonna see them go last year. Chelsea takes their guy in, and then all of a sudden, towards the end, it just doesn't work for him. They bring in a guy like Tuchel who fits what this team needs, and they just strive with him. Man United needs to find that guy, and they need to find him relatively soon before things go sour with the fan base.
Absolutely. So speaking of next guy up, right? There's been rumors of, linking names such as Zinedine Zidane, Antonio Conte, Roberto Martinez, maybe even Fonseca at some point. But even obscure names like Lucien Favre as well are in the listing of potential Manchester United next managers. In your opinion, who is that next guy that can really actually take United to that next level?
To me, I'll mention a name that honestly I don't mention, but because of the players that Manchester United have, I really, really enjoy, and that is Ten Hag, the Ajax manager. I really, really enjoy his football, and I think with the players that Manchester United have right now, he can get the best out of them in an attacking way that, like Chris said, would make it like Chelsea last year and get them to strive in this Champions League and maybe even push for the Premier League.
Okay. I actually really like that idea of Ten Hag because this is a person who has had experience coaching somebody like Donny van de Beek, who clearly needs to get back into form and who was a huge driver of their success when he was at Ajax. He's good at making moves when it comes to loans and temporary moves, which is something that Manchester United desperately needs to do, especially players like Anthony Martial, Jesse Lingard, potentially even Donny van de Beek. Axel Tuanzebe was recently moved. So when you're thinking of Manchester United and the depth of that roster, definitely some of these players need to be moved around to be allowed an opportunity to stay within shape so that when they come back next year and transitions need to be made, they're ready to fulfill that role. So I absolutely love that Ten Hag take. What about you, Andrew? What is a name that do you think could fit the role?
Out of managers who currently don't have a club, I think if I were a United fan, my first choice would be Antonio Conte, just because he's someone who's had winning experience in the Premier League before with Chelsea. Has plenty of experience managing big personalities and star players all over the place, from Juventus to Chelsea, like I said. So he's been around the block a little bit. So I think he could be someone who could come in mid-season and do a good job. I think Ten Hag would honestly maybe in the long term be a better option than Conte, just because, like Diego said, I think his sort of tactics and his style of football is really, really nice to watch. The one problem is I'm not sure that he would want to leave Ajax in the middle of the season, just because they've looked so good in the Champions League. I think if he could replicate the run that Ajax had a couple years, they made it to the semifinals, and leave on a note like that, I feel like that would kind of be the perfect send-off in some ways. So at the end of the day, money talks, and if United came in for him, who am I to say that he wouldn't go? But maybe from a fan perspective, I would like to see him get one last run, I guess, with Ajax before he departs. But I think either Conte, maybe more in the short term, or Ten Hag in the long run could do a very, very good job there.
Okay. Jones, what's the name that you're thinking of?
I think so. If you're going based off of no attachments, obviously a guy like Antonio Conte would be the much more reasonable name. But there have been names like Zinedine Zidane that have popped up. But I think we all can agree that he's kind of hoping the France men's national team is looking for a manager, and that would be a spot for him. But if you're looking for a couple managers that I think could fill in for the season, I've said this before to you, Diego. Brendan Rodgers from Leicester City might be a solid ad for them. Just the way that he has brought Leicester City, they're a consistent team every year. I think that could help this squad as well. But another name that not a lot of people are really talking about, and I wouldn't hate this. What about Thomas Frank from Brentford?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his contract is due at the end of the season too.
I think 23, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, could be. Yeah.
But we've seen how he's done with Brentford and how solid that team looks overall. And I think the way that he could line up Manchester United could be a little bit better. And we could see more of Donny van de Beek instead of Fred. We could see more of the consistencies up front in that attacking line for United as well. So just a couple different names than like the usual Conte. Who's the big one? Why am I drawing a blank on his name? Pochettino, like guys like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned Pochettino because he's been a huge rumor name in the United organization for a while now. I mean, even going back to the Mourinho days. I wouldn't hate it. However, I think his current strides with with personalities. Yeah, dealing with personalities like Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe has really put him in a spot where it's almost like he's really not ready to take on those personalities just yet. Yeah, he was able to develop a good personality like Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. Like, that's great because there were case studies for him basically at Tottenham. But a already developed superstar to the caliber of Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe requires more of experience and wisdom more than anything else. You can't just be that manager that wants to lay down the law every single time. And that's unfortunately what's happening for Pochettino at PSG. Granted, still managing very well, but it's a roster that's basically set you up for success anyway. It's like the old saying, even a monkey can do it, But I do have a name that just recently popped in mind for me, and I wouldn't hate it. Gareth Southgate. This is a person that knows very well about the English football and what it requires. He's used to the tempo. He's used to the development. He's used to picking away at defenses and picking away at forwards. He's very good at transition all that game, and very good also in working different formations, which is another aspect that has really just ticked away Manchester United fans because this 4-3-1-2 formation is just not characteristic of United at all. I think Southgate, having the experience of coaching people like Maguire, Rashford, Lingard, Henderson, people who continue to have developmental seasons, this is a perfect opportunity for him to transition into a team that, while has the personality of Cristiano Ronaldo available for him there to give him that identity that he desperately needs to have for a Manchester United team, can transition into being like, okay, who is the next person that can take on that role? And especially where you're now in a long-term contract with somebody like Jadon Sancho and Rafael Varane, this is the type of guy that can work that style right there. But another name that I personally just wouldn't be against that as well as either is Julian Nagelsmann. I mean, yeah, he's contracted until 2026 with Bayern Munich, but Bayern Munich could also be soon on the collapse bout, considering that people like Mueller, Lewandowski, and Manuel Neuer are all getting up there in age. How do you transition to that? And if it's said for him to just make those decisions, Nagelsmann might be looking elsewhere because he doesn't want all that pressure. And a perfect team to transition immediately into that is something like Manchester United. So that contract can eventually be terminated between 2022, 2023, and leave him the opportunity to transition immediately. But I mean, if we're talking about somebody who's completely unattached, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to Conte personally, but I think he'd be coming in again in that caretaker role because his experience with Chelsea it was okay, but it wasn't characteristic of what you expect out of a Premier League manager, if I may say so. So Nagelsmann and Southgate are my guys that I'm thinking of as a potential replacement for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, for sure.
I think my retort on Southgate is we saw in the Euros this past season, he struggled to get Jadon Sancho involved into his formation. So for a United fan, that might not be the best case scenario. But this
is a guy too that had Jack Grealish as an option. And if we're gonna,
but even if that,
if we're gonna compare and contrast,
he played other guys that I think Jadon Sancho, are much better than overall.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for sure. But if you're in a national team and Jack Grealish continues to bring you the results, how do you?
He wasn't even playing Jack Grealish, though. He's starting Raheem Sterling and company overall.
Right. But Jack Grealish was expected always to come into the game and kind of resuscitate things. How do you take away that role from somebody that's been given those results to somebody like Jadon Sancho to hope to fulfill the gap? I just
don't think Southgate would be the best case scenario for United.
But I mean, in the same topic as well, though, Southgate doesn't have to worry about having somebody like Jack Grealish in United because Rashford and Sancho play two complete different positions.
Yeah, but then how do you get Greenwood involved? How do you get Anthony Martial involved? There are other guys you have to think of. Edison Cavani, there are so many talented.
I mean, at this point right now, you're looking at Cavani more than likely being done after this season. Then probably not extending that contract anymore. One more season, but after that, I think extending the contract there is just a bit of a risky move, especially with a veteran like him. You're looking at probably unloading Anthony Martial because it just hasn't been results driven, especially if you have a new coach coming in. That new coach is more than likely to make the decision happen anyways. Mason Greenwood is a solid attacking option, so that's immediately coming off of the bench, if not starting alongside of Ronaldo. And it gives you an opportunity to make a new formation. Like I said, this 4-3-1-2 formation is just not United's warfare. It's just not what they're used to. They're more of a 4-3-3, 4-4-2 formation. 4-3-1-2 is just a patch in between of a transition, but it just stuck along for way too long. But for me, I got nothing else to say about United as a fan. I think it's time to really transition out of Ole. Thank him for doing the job that he was signed out to do, taking care of this club and transition into a new era. But I think it's just time to really let go and have somebody with a lot more experience come in and take over the club and do a service to the club more than anything.
Ole should go back to Molde for the third time.
I mean, Ole could very well actually, thinking about Newcastle, for example, right? Ole could very well still stay in the Premier League because Newcastle just recently got rid of Stephen Bruce. If there's somebody that can fulfill that role for him, that could be Ole.
I think Newcastle now with the money that they got, I think they're looking for something bigger now.
Oh, they're going for Zinedine Zidane. That's my train of thought. That's really my train of thought. But I mean, if this new owner is looking to spend wise and safely without too much risk involved, Ole's probably one of the top three options at this point for him. Besides, obviously, Fonseca, who would be a phenomenal option for him.
I would agree with that, but I just think because of the money getting, I think they want to do like a Manchester City type thing when they first got their money too.
Ooh,
yep,
that's so true. I didn't even think of it that way either.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
All right, so let's move over to Champions League real quick. Jones, just give us an update on that, and let's dive into the three big games out of that schedule. Because boy, another fulfilled, action-driven week of Champions League. I don't think anyone was expecting the results that we got this week.
No, I mean, so real quick, just to touch upon, big shout out to our own Andrew Fasciano, 11-5 last week, 28-20 overall. Diego, 10-6, 25-23 overall. I went 9-7, 26-22 overall. So in order, Fasciano, Jones, Diego. For spot-ons, I called Porto winning 1-0 over AC Milan. Fasciano had 3-2 PSG and 1-0 Juventus. Diego had 3-2 United and 3-1 Salzburg. So to go over the big games, I think the first one we have to talk about, the one we were all wrong on, is Atletico Madrid and Liverpool. For certain. What a game. We all thought it was going to be very defensive heavy, and there were 4 goals in the first half. It was 2-2 at the end of the first half, which no one expected. And then Griezmann gets the red card in the second half. Salah gets the penalty in the 78th minute. Liverpool wins 3-2 there. What are thoughts really quick on that matchup, which happened at Atletico as well?
I mean, I would agree with you. I was thinking that Atletico was going to be way more defensive. You know, they were going to drag out the first half, right? Play to see what Liverpool could do. But Liverpool, I believe, Salah got the goal in the 7th, 8th minute. Like it was ridiculously quick. And so I think that put him on the back burner, trying to figure out now what to do with our game plan. And then came Keita's goal, which was also really quick. I think it was 15, 13, 14?
They scored 2 goals in the first 15 minutes.
Exactly. So once that happened, I think Atletico, Cholo Simeone had to restructure, replan the game right away. I mean, luckily, Griezmann at Atletico is a whole different monster, and he did his thing. Except for that, I think it's a stupid red card on his behalf. Like you're an experienced player. You can't be putting your foot up like that, you know?
Yep.
Yep. So I mean, great game overall though. Very exciting as a neutral fan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as a Liverpool fan, I was on the edge of my seat the entire game. But this also is good for Liverpool because Griezmann would get a red card means that he can't play against them in November. So they're next.
Yeah, which by the way, I gotta give it to you too, because you gave that as a hot take to wrap up episode 56, calling a red card in the Atletico versus Liverpool game. So kudos to you on that one. I thought for sure there would be a red card, but I didn't think it would be Atletico.
Yeah, same. I thought it was gonna be one of us.
Well, you know, when you think of these two teams clashing together, and especially in their style of play, the very first team that I could see getting, you know, hot-headed, it's Liverpool, because their midfield is driven by emotion. I mean, you look at guys like Milner, extremely emotional guy in the game. Henderson, when he's in it, extremely emotional. And Naby Keita, don't even get me started. He can get even more emotional. So, you know, when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking the more stable guys in Atletico are people like Kieran Trippier and Ferreira. You know, never in my life did I expect, like Diego just said, for an experienced player like Antoine Griezmann to make such a ridiculous move of elevating your foot that high on a split ball opportunity. Like, that is the last thing you do as an experienced player. So I was like, that was the stupid single move he could have made after having, you know, made a spectacular comeback and carrying his team on his back, basically, because he scored 20th minute, scored the 34th minute, giving Atletico an assurance that they were still in this game. And the 52nd, you're basically leaving the team one-handed. That's just crazy. But I do agree, though, Cholo Simeone, man, this guy's just really, every season he elevates his game to the next level. It's just unreal how wise this man is when it comes to the game.
All right, Fasciano, you with us still?
looks like he's frozen a little bit.
All right, so we'll move on to the next game.
I think I'm back now, maybe.
There he is. Yeah.
There he is.
All right.
Give me your thoughts on Atletico and Liverpool.
Yeah, it was a very exciting game to watch. When it was 2-2, I think it sort of had some of the hallmarks of a classic Simeone game where he, frustrates the opponent and plays them tough and manages to steal it. But I think with the red card, he sort of lost that ability a little bit just because he had to switch things up to account for being a man down. I thought that, to be honest, the penalty was a little bit borderline. Like, I don't think it was necessarily a nailed on penalty decision. But also I think it's fair to say that after Atletico went down to 10, Liverpool were the team that was more in control. So not entirely undeserved either. It was a very exciting game, and I'm looking forward to the rematch as well, because Klopp and Simeone have done a little bit of talking in the press, so there could be a storyline there next time they meet as well.
Yep, November 4th.
That's been fun to watch their banter.
So let's move on to what I would call the surprise of the week. Let's talk Ajax and Dortmund. Ajax wiping the doors with Dortmund. Ajax winning 4-0 in that matchup. Andrew, you're a big Ajax believer. Did you expect this?
I didn't. I think I thought Ajax would win, but the way they dominated this game was incredible. Like, it could have been a lot more lopsided than 4-0. I think Ajax and Dortmund coming into this game had both beaten Sporting and Besiktas, probably two teams that they would expect to beat given where they are in their talent pools. So this was really kind of the showdown between the top two teams in this group. And if Ajax keep playing like this, they could make a serious run, I think, which I'm definitely a fan of. I like when teams outside of the big five leagues do well in the Champions League. I think it adds a nice, unique aspect to the competition. So I personally hope they keep playing this well, because they're a scary team when they're attacking together as a unit like that.
Now, to go off kind of like what Diego said for the Liverpool game, this was another one where we thought it was going to be very much well contained, but Dortmund giving up that own goal in the 11th minute, they had to play catch up. And when Dortmund has to play catch up early, usually it doesn't bode well for them. And we saw Daley Blind going down 2-0 in the half, and then Dortmund just couldn't find the groove in that game. And with them struggling to find the groove, we saw Ajax take full advantage of it, and that's how they get 2 more goals in the second half, and they win the game overall 4-0.
Yep. All right. So what's the next game that you have in mind?
I think the other one would have to be PSG and Leipzig.
Yeah.
Another thriller. We talked about United and Atalanta jumped out to the 2-0 lead. United come all the way back. They win 3-2 thanks to Cristiano Ronaldo. But PSG gets a little help with Lionel Messi putting in 2, including the game winner there. What were some thoughts on this matchup? Because we expected it to be close and PSG to win a close one, but I think this was a lot closer than we even thought it was going to be.
I think the thing with PSG that people, I don't know if they've looked at it this way, but I see it as they're still, even though they're a team that has already been together, they brought in some superstars like Wijnaldum, Sergio Ramos, Lionel Messi, who are still getting into the groove of being with this team, right? I still see at many moments that Messi is playing, let's say, in third gear, whereas PSG play faster. At least some of their midfielders, I feel like, are faster, more transition-based, more direct. Whereas Messi, he wants to control, look for the open lane, and that's where I think there's a problem in the connection there. And I think that's what's missing or lacking in PSG right now. Once they figure that out, whether it's Pochettino or the players themselves, then I think they'll be firing on all cylinders. Obviously, they have the squad to do it. But, I mean, it's great to see Messi still doing his thing and Cristiano, both of them obviously helping their teams to a comeback victory. It just goes to show that these two are on another level.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think
I just
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, good. No, good.
I think for PSG, the key was again, really just involving Messi right from the get-go. I mentioned this in the last episode. If Messi is involved right from the get-go in this game, this is a guy that can, with the experience that he has, be able to sniff out where he can actually be able to make the impact that he is known to make within the game. And that's exactly what we saw a minute in that late 60th to mid 70th point of the game, which is, Lionel Messi really just dissecting away at this defense and being able to score what he did, even produce a penalty where, he's taking the penalty as well. So I agree with much of what Diego said. These are two guys that are still at the very top of their game, being able to be huge contributors to their teams. But it's an occasion where, again, both managers are just not realizing that along with these players, you need to string the rest of the team along to be able to analyze and recreate how these guys are being able to produce comebacks so that when they are dominating in their performance, they can really drive forward rather than just stay still, hoping for somebody to make the opportune move.
I know we've seen a lot of Donnarumma in Ligue 1, but I want to see him play with his team in the Champions League. And they've been riding Keylor Navas right now in the Champions League, and I don't quite understand why. I understand that they have two solid goaltenders, so you have to try and figure out who's the better of the two. But I'm just waiting for PSG to have that one game where Navas screws them. And they're like, why didn't we play Donnarumma this whole time? We got him for a free transfer in the offseason. Because Donnarumma played the City game and they beat City 2-0 handily. They dominated City in that game. So why are we not?
Can I just tell you something though? I think when it comes down to Champions League though, and being such a high praised trophy that every club in Europe wants to go after, it's the fact that Keylor Navas just has a little bit of an edge on Donnarumma when it comes to the experience. Donnarumma is still so young, still developing. Don't get me wrong, the talent is absolutely there. And if he continues at this, he could very well be one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time, maybe even way beyond Oliver Kahn and Gianluigi Buffon, which were historic names at their times. But when you have somebody has experience and that can ooze the confidence and already has played a bunch of Champions League seasons under his belt, you kind of have to rely on the guy that still has it and has that experience as well. It's like for United, which is the same exact situation. Henderson is a very good talent coming off of the bench to replace De Gea. However, De Gea has had so much experience being at United's, head of the table basically, that for Henderson, it's more of like watch and learn so that when you're ready to take over, you don't have any questions to take over with.
I think my only retort to that is look at Chelsea, who won the Champions League last year. They rode Eduardo Mendy over Kepa, who has more experience in the Champions League than Mendy did going into that. So that's how I look at it.
I mean, for Arrizabalaga versus Mendy, I think, for me personally, I too would have ridden with Mendy. Mendy just immediately from the moment that he got to that camp, he just showed so much more potential than what Arrizabalaga was showing. And Arrizabalaga was just working on arguing back to management, which when you're doing that, as somebody has a statue of you at a Chelsea team like that, buddy, all you're doing is just causing yourself for your value to depreciate like this. And don't think for a second that for any new coach that comes into Chelsea that they want a replay of what Arrizabalaga did to Sarri, because no other coach would deal with it the way that Sarri deal with it. If anything, most coach would be like, I want you out of the club. I'm here. I want you out. You're nothing but a distraction. In my honest opinion, just thinking it from a disciplinary standpoint, it's that.
I think that's very fair. I mean, the Navas Donnarumma situation is, like you mentioned, Keylor Navas has the experience in Champions League. He did great for Real Madrid during his time there. Very great. I think he's very underrated, and I think Real Madrid disrespected him by the way he left.
Yes.
100%.
Yep.
And I think that's why they're riding him still, right? Until the day, like Chris said, if he messes up, then they're gonna say, all right, you know what? We got Donnarumma on the bench and we can use him. But until that day happens, I think they're gonna keep going with Keylor Navas.
Yeah, I think so too.
Then, so to retort to that, they play City, who's the best team that they're playing in the group stage, and you ride Donnarumma for that game, not Navas. Why do you think that is? You know what I mean?
I would say that it's possibly just to get him in the rhythm of it. You know, I don't know yet. I guess I haven't been able to speak with anyone from PSG yet, but hopefully, I mean, we'll find out once it gets to the big games, right? Once it gets, because they should get out of group stage, right? Then in quarterfinals and whatnot, we'll see exactly who Pochettino's going to ride with.
Yeah, I think for that case scenario, Chris, thinking about it, Keylor Navas is already experienced enough dealing with those high profile games like that when you as a coach are looking to go into the new age of who's going to be in the back of your net, you need to throw them into that situation to see if they're situational ready. Because majority of the times when you see new talent, especially at the goalkeeping position, these are a lot of the times you see these goalkeepers crack under that pressure. Donnarumma simply oozed that confidence, and that's why he started against City, because regardless of what the outcome would be, he needed to have that experience anyways. So it was a win-win situation for both.
But if we're talking about experience, don't you bring up how well he played in the Euros this past season as
for sure
experience, especially in the final, going to the penalty shootout against England? For
sure, and that's why because of that experience, that's why he was tested again facing off of Manchester City, so that if it's not Euros or if it's not World Cup, the next situation that you're dealing with is Champions League, and are you ready to be battle tested against what could very well be the final? Because many of us have thought the final could be PSG versus Manchester City. What if he's needed at the final? Is he ready? At a temporary game like that, where it's so early in the year, that's when you want to start throwing him so that you can see if he's actually ready or not. And clearly he showed that he was ready.
Well, I'm not refuting Diego's point on getting him in the group, but if that's the case, why is it a big game like that rather than playing him against Leipzig or playing him against Club Brugge in the group stage early on? You know what I mean?
Because you know what happens there? I think we can all agree here. You much rather have, and this is very crappy the way that it's going to sound, but it's realistic. You much rather have Keylor Navas go down with an injury than your young replacement that is probably the future of your team in the back of the net go injured. You know that Keylor Navas, it sucks to say it. It really is such a, it comes off as like a nasty thing to say, but it's realistic. You know that Keylor Navas is towards the end of his career. An injury for him, okay, it happens as part of the game. An injury of a big caliber to somebody like Gianluigi Donnarumma can deteriorate the rest of his career.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm not disagreeing with the points. I just think I'm looking at it at a different perspective than Diego and Diego. Speaking of, that would be a fire name of a show on Telemundo, Diego and Diego. Just saying. I'm going to put that out there.
We're going to have to talk to the producer, see if they can make that happen.
I'll get the trademark and everything. We'll talk off air.
Hey, listen.
There you go, Diego. I got you.
I don't want Andres Cantor to come cancel me, man. I don't want that yet. I love Cantor. He's awesome. But all right, so without further ado, let's transition now onto the locality of things, because the New England Revolution it's just so exciting to think about it. Playoffs starting very soon. Oh man. I don't know what happened here, but all the cameras are frozen. All right. So as we were saying, kind of love technological issues. Good thing there is like a press play and press pause button on this thing, because holy crap. For me as a DJ right there, like I just messed up the transition big time in this concert. So.
That's fun. We're all laughing at you because it looked like you were on our screen. It looked like you were praying to the gods about the New England Revolution winning. So it looked even better. It looked even better for the transition. They won't see it, unfortunately, because they'll just see our frozen faces. But I just thought it was that was just great.
See, so it was
Great
so funny.
right there.
So on my end, Diego froze with like a wink, like situational face.
I can't wait to see that.
Andrew's like this. And Jones is just like big mouth wide open, frozen. And I'm like, what just happened here? And that's what, like, I'm waiting for like 10 seconds to roll by to see if, like, it'll revive. That's why I texted you guys. I'm like, you all froze on my end. I don't know what's happening here.
we're all talking crap about you.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Wouldn't want it any other way. However, the New England Revolution playoff bound starting November. We have a big game coming up today on Saturday at 3:30. Seattle Sounders, Kansas City Sporting. What are we thinking from a locality standpoint? And before the playoffs start, how are we feeling about this team? Forget the season. How are we feeling about this team right now?
Sporting Kansas City is going to win. We're going to win the Shield today, and then we won't have to worry about anything until the playoffs start. But real quick, I just think this team has just been so well put together. I think we have the MVP of the league in Carlos Gil, and Coach of the Year in Bruce Arena for sure. Because listen, not only are they playing at a high level, they are 20 points ahead of anybody else in the Eastern Conference right now, which is an incredible feat. 21-6-4, 4 losses this year, and I think they've lost one since September. No, they've lost one since the beginning of September, and that was to New York City FC.
Yeah.
So they're on an incredible run right now. Even with them not playing their best guys, they're still at least drawing or winning right now, as they've already clinched the Eastern Conference. So for me, it's a good look going in. They need to put it together though in crunch time. Like when the important games come, they need to show up, and that's exactly why they brought in a guy like De La Garza. We saw how good they were in the playoff run last year. They need to be like that, but better this year, because you want to be in that MLS Cup final. You want to be able to win it, and in order to win it, you have to get there.
Okay, No, I think I would agree with that. Diego, what are your thoughts?
I think the Revs had a I want to say a decent core group, right? They had a decent core group. When Bruce Arena came in, he came in exactly for this reason, to turn this core group, add whatever players were needed, and bring the best out of them, right? Mm-hmm. It's taking him some time, because obviously you need to bring in the players that you need for the tactics, formations to work the way you want them to. But you can see, as you mentioned, Carles Gil, Gustavo Bo, he let go of players like Diego Fagundes, who were hometown legends, right? Like it was nothing. He said, all right, I don't need you, right? Cristian Penilla, who was also great during his time, I don't need you. But it's worked. For me, I honestly thought Teal Bunbury was one of the players that was going to be let go, because I felt like I didn't see enough from him at times. Mm-hmm. But then I feel like he's been re-energized, used in a different way, and it's been working. Yeah. And he's gotten the whole group to believe in what they're playing. And as you guys just mentioned, they're 20 points ahead of everybody. This is unforeseen, to be honest, unforeseen. I've been covering the Revs since I started with NBC Telemundo 5-6 years ago now. Oof. And in my time there, I never would have thought that it would be at this point, 20 points ahead of everybody else. I never would have thought it. Yeah. So I just want to say, big ups to the guys there for all the work that they've been doing. Obviously, the Community Shield is almost there. They just need to keep going, whether it's Kansas City winning or them having to do the business against Orlando. Great for them. And now let's just keep it going in the postseason, because as we know, the Revs have made it to finals many times before, but they've never been able to cross that line. I think with Bruce Arena having the experience that he has, and these players having the mix of experience and talent, it's just a winning combination, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I think, going back to your point where Arena's coming in here and getting rid of names like, Fagundes, Pinilla, even Lee Guillen. Like, when you think of that midfield, Lee Guillen was like, at the time, I guess you Carlos Gil back then. In ways with the transitional things, he kind of lost that touch, but getting rid of somebody that could be a creative playmaker in the midfield like Lee Guillen, that's some serious brass right there. Like, you got some bigger picture moves coming along that nobody's gonna see coming. And I think the Carlos Hill move, the Gustavo Bo move, and all that stuff has been really working out. And I think back to your point too, veterans like Andrew Farrell, Teal Bunbury, even Brad Knighton, like, they all look so rejuvenated. They look like they have a new kind of sense and new objectives in mind that haven't really been inspired by any of the other coaches along the lines. Like, you think back 5 years ago, thinking of somebody like Shuttleworth, in net, amazing in net, but it just seemed like at the time he knew what his role was, but it wasn't like he was really inspired to be better than what he was. And in this year, you just see somebody like Matt Turner just continue to develop to such a high standard that it's almost unforeseen. You don't really see keepers develop at the pace that he's developed in such a fast manner. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So I agree with what Chris said. Shout out to Bruce Arena, like, definitely coach of the year. There was no question on that. It's just more of here, just really just closing it with, wrapping the gift with a bow tie and the card there, man. Just deliver, because at this point there is no sweeter ending to this magical season than bringing home the trophy that they so rightfully deserve at this point. It's just, and I think along the lines too, fans here in New England have kind of been, in a way, mesmerized by this magic that's in the air with them, because 5 years ago you would never see half of the fans that you are seeing now at Gillette Stadium show up. I mean, last time that I went to a Revs game, this was against one of the games against Chicago, I think. Yeah, against Chicago. Oh no, actually it was against Montreal. And my God, I was amazed with how many people are at the stadium. I mean, I don't recall 5 years ago leaving a Revs game and sitting in an hour of traffic leaving a Revs game. This year was just that. I was just like, wow. I'm like, this is awesome to see.
Well, let's also say, who else are people going to root for in Boston right now?
This is true. No, you're 100% true.
Ouch.
See, but here's the thing. I've been saying this since the summer, because you knew the Red Sox were good, but they were going to struggle. You knew the Pats were going to have some growing pains. So I agree with you 100% there. I went 2 years ago. I went to 2 games. I saw them play Orlando City. They won, and I saw them play Sporting Kansas City. And, when we were there, we were sitting 10 rows from the field and then 15 rows from the center. And not for nothing, I mean, the prices on that weren't expensive at all. No. Now looking at them and looking at the pricing now, it's like this was the same thing I was trying to do last year, but can't do it because of COVID. So trying to get into it now, and it's a hell of a sight to see.
Yeah.
Wish it was closer to us. That's all.
I mean, so that comes back to the conversation, right? That it's been going on for years now, but even more so resounding this year than anything. Does building a stadium somewhere closer to the city make a lot more sense now for this team?
The question is where. That's the biggest issue. Where?
I mean, the where is a great question. I think, realistically speaking, if you look at the Austin Brighton area, where when Mayor Marty Walsh was the mayor of the city and whatnot, that was supposed to be the Olympic area for Boston when Boston had the opportunity to have the Olympics here. It's so underdeveloped, though, that I don't know if from the transition of COVID to recent day financials, if the financials are really there to support such investment, or if they need additional sponsors to then be able to have that investment be made. Because, I mean, Kraft may have a lot of money, but a stadium is a stadium, and that's a lot of dough to lash out.
I agree. I think they had two good spots. They had the spot in Everett where they could have easily banked, and I think the spot in East Boston, right where Suffolk Downs used to be, I think would have been big time. It's a very heavy Hispanic area, and I think with that you could have drew more and more over these past 5 years while you were getting really, really good, and we could be talking about having them sell out that arena rather than try to have them sell at Gillette Stadium. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's also I don't know, Pawtucket is doing a lot of stuff, right? They're building a whole pretty much mini Patriots Place for a new USL team, and they still have the Paw Sox Stadium that no one is using now.
Yep.
Obviously, it'd have to get reworked, but I guess the stadium's already there. There are things that are already built around the area, so it would just be an influx of money to kind of revamp it.
Yeah.
Faciano, what do you think? We haven't heard from you in quite some time. You're a Reds guy.
I agree with a lot of what all three of you guys have said about the Revs. One thing I would add is that down this stretch that they've been on, I think 4 of their last 5 wins have come in 1-goal games, which is, to me, very encouraging, because I think it shows that when the going gets tough, which it will in the playoffs, they have the ability to find that extra gear and find a winner when they're up against a tough team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it definitely helps when you have the option of giving the ball to Carlos Gil, who has the technical ability to sit down a defender and score from outside the box like he did the other night against DC United. But I think it's a good sign, and it goes back to sort of the winning culture that all three of you touched upon with Bruce Arena coming in. You know, he's done it before. He's won plenty of MLS Cups. He knows what it takes, and like Diego said, we've seen him build a roster to do that over the last couple of years. So I really think it's all sort of coming together right now, and I think the fact that they've been able to keep on winning close games is a good sign headed into the playoffs. I had another thought, but now I'm forgetting it. Yeah, I don't remember. There's another part that I was going to talk about.
I got a question for you guys. Is there any team that you guys, I guess, are a little worried of the Revs facing in the playoffs?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
It is a good question. I would say, me personally, I'm a little bit worried about Nashville because they've been a great defensive team. They've sort of had the Revs number this year. I don't believe the Revs have beaten them this year. They've played them twice and they lost and drew against them. So I think, at least in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion, that would be the toughest matchup for New England.
For me, the team that I'm a little bit worried about that I think could be sneaky good come playoff time is actually Colorado. For some odd reason, they have that kind of, I guess, personality in a way and identity to be that team that can be the dark horse come playoff time. And there's nothing more dangerous than a team like that knows that they got nothing to lose because there's no high hopes for them. But boy, if they deliver, man, that's a lot to gain there for your own club. So that's the one team that I think I'm worried about. But overall, in the Eastern Conference, I agree with you, Andrew. I think definitely Nashville is one to worry about defensively because it's gonna require a lot more out of the Revolution to really take that offensive game to next gear and have creative ideas in the background to rely on as well. So
I'm more so worried about Philadelphia than I am about Nashville. Philadelphia's played them tough all year. The Revolution have prevailed in those games, but the Union always play them tough, and they might have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after the Revolution took them out early on last season as well.
I would agree. I was thinking Union over here in the Eastern Conference, and then if I had to mention another team, I think Seattle's always one to worry about with Roldan, Lodeiro, and Rui Diaz, who for Seattle just is on fire whenever he's back.
Okay. All right.
I agree. Last thing I'm going to talk about on the Revolution front. If you do not remember, we had AJ Delagarza on an episode before he even stepped foot on the pitch for the Revolution. And his son, obviously, if you don't know, his foundation, Luca Knows Heart, they have shirts with the New England colors online, lucaknowsheart.com. Go check it out because it's a quality fit and it helps a good cause. Big shout out to AJ Delagarza again.
What a plug. What a way to plug in such thing here. But with that said, that does it for episode 57 here of the Yellow Card Podcast. Diego, thank you so much for coming on the show. Looking forward to having you back on whenever works out best. Andrew, Chris, as always, thank you guys for hopping on. For those of you listening through Spotify or whatever platform you listen to, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Podcast Card. Make sure to follow the Couch Guys Sports Network at Couch Guys Sports. And a huge shout out and thank you to our sponsor, Shocked Energy. Until next week, signing off, it's Diego Galvis, Chris Jones, Andrew Fasciano, and our guest, Diego Montalvan.